Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Lincolnville Town Budget Committee meeting. I'll call the meeting to order at this time. Before we begin, if we can just go around the table and introduce ourselves. We'll start to my right.
Reed Matthews.
Jason Trundy.
Patria Allen.
Gary Schwal.
John Williams.
Jordan Barnett Parker.
Ed O'Brien.
Great, thank you. Before we start with the next item on the agenda, Robin is not able to attend tonight. Can I have a volunteer for someone to take the minutes?
Is there a laptop or anything? Will it be?
She brings her own.
Yeah. I think I said I would.
Okay,
she
great.
wasn't here, so
Thank you. And you could work with her. She's got like a template. You could.
Yeah, she said she would send it, and I.
Okay, great. Thank you. Right. First item on the agenda, you have minutes before you for approval. The minutes from 4/30/19 we were never approved last year, as well as October 22nd, 2019.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 30th meeting as well as the October 22nd meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Minutes passed, thank you. All right. There's a new item on the agenda tonight. I asked Kayla to add it regarding the Lincolnville Improvement Association building. The Budget Committee was invited for a tour of the building yesterday, and then there was a meeting last night with the selectmen and some stakeholders from the Historical Society and the LIA building. There's a lot of discussion going on as far as what to do with that building. It's in need of a lot of structural work, so to speak. They did have some consultants to review the structure, the HVAC system, the electrical, the plumbing, the roof, everything, and it came back. I don't know when it actually came back, but there's a report when they finished it. I know it's been going on for a while. So the big criteria, and something that the Budget Committee needs to think about, is if the selectmen agree to go forward with the renovations, where are we going to find the money? Just to give you a ballpark, the recommendation came in $600,000 and change, but more likely it might be up between $700,000 and $750,000. To break down, to give you a little sense of the cost, it's a 3,000 square foot building, so roughly it's about $200 per square foot to renovate. I asked the consultant last night what it would cost to build a new building roughly, and that's roughly about $175 per square foot for a new building. Also, the consulting thing include, for example, if you tore down the building and built a new building, the cost of that, demolition and removal of all the debris. Also, it might not have the same character that the old building has. But on the other side of the coin, the amount of money we're going to spend is really to make it structurally safe and ADA compliant as the best they can. So it's not going to be a new building. And everyone knows who's done construction, you know, once you start tearing things apart, you don't know what you're going to find. There is a contingency in that budget of 10% for contractor contingency. But this is something, last night, a lot of discussion. Do you do a capital fund campaign? Do you go for a bond? Do you know, there's many different options to maybe generate some of that money. Or even, the town owns a building, do you lease it back to someone or change ownership? So there's a lot of discussion going on, but I wanted the Budget Committee to kind of be aware and keep that in the back of your mind as we go through the budget this year. More information will come, and I welcome any other comments from the Budget Committee that did attend last night's meeting. Do you have any? Did I miss anything? Or?
No, you covered the numbers really well.
Mm-hmm.
I could repeat what David Darrow said toward the end. He said he had been watching everybody around the room and thinking that in 20 years, if we borrow money, in 20 years most of us are not going to be around to enjoy the building.
Yeah.
And younger people are going to be paying the loans, 40 to 50,000 a year or something like that.
20 years.
Yeah, and so he just said he and his wife thought if some alternative uses could be, people could come up with some other ideas for the building, so the younger people would like to have the building too and use it, that would be good, but he said he didn't have any ideas.
Mhm.
But, you know, that's wide open.
Well, now, of course, I was not at the meeting yesterday, but I, of course, spoke to my mom.
Yes.
And as somebody who is a lifelong beach resident and has been in that building, you know, countless times and hauled old stoves up the stairs and back down and boats and etc. You know, I think the idea of like tearing down the building and replacing it is, what's the point? The point is, it's a historical building. It's a historical building that has history in this town. It's the beach school. My understanding is no decision needs to be made this year. And I'm not sure if that was my mom's take, was we have some time, not forever, but we have some time to figure it out. And I think the point of, you know, younger generations, and I certainly hope to be here in 20 years, you know, when that loan is paid out or whatever it ends up being. And I definitely don't think it should be the burden of the town to pay $700,000 for this old building.
Yeah.
But I think we need to figure out, can we make this relevant? Is it relevant? Do people even know it's there? I know my mom's comment was so many people who, when they were there yesterday, had never been there, had never been upstairs, never seen the museum, which has a history of this town. And I do have history of this town. I'm raising my kids here. And my mom has researched the history of the town extensively, even though she's not from here. So I think these are things we need to be discussing and thinking about. And if we just think about this in terms of how much it's going to cost, we need to think about that, obviously. But we also need to realize there is some things that are invaluable, especially in a community which is as wonderful as Lincolnville is. So that's my soapbox.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Chair.
thanks.
So I sort of have a question. I wasn't there either, unfortunately. But my question, regardless of whether we restore the old building or build new, it seems to me it is the history of our town, and it's really important. I have no idea whether the building is worthy of being preserved because of its history or not. But one thing that would be very important is that because the contents are a museum in the history of the town, that it needs to be safe. And my question would be, if we were to renovate that building, would it render the contents safe or not? Or would it be better off with a new building? I prefer the old building if it has historical value, but I mean, a lot needs to go into that decision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's gonna ultimately be up to the town, the taxpayers. So.
And just one other thing about, you know, responding to what David Barrow said. I understand what he said, but 20 years down the road isn't about us.
Mhm.
We're not going to be there.
Yeah.
But
Right.
everybody,
Two people will be there.
you know, it'd be nice if I was still alive, but we're not relevant in 20 years. Everybody coming up behind us is.
Mhm.
And even though the youth may not appreciate the history at this point in their lives, by the time they get to be our age, they will appreciate the history.
Mhm.
So I think we need to find a way to preserve what we have. So.
And Doug?
Believe it or not, I was sick last night and I finally found the channel to watch the first time in all the years I've been here. So I did have a chance to see it. It made me feel better. I originally started with the idea this is ridiculous. Taxpayers' dollars. Nobody wants to do that. But after listening to that meeting last night on TV and in my comfort of my home, it gave me an opportunity to change my mind a little bit and look at the historical values you're speaking of. Because I think that's something that years ago, Sheila actually I think was one of them who went into the classroom and had worked with the 8th graders to write something about the town. And you can help me with that. Do you remember that?
I don't know, but that's been happening, yeah.
Yeah, but it hasn't been done for many years.
Well, there's actually a fair amount of outreach with like with the fourth grade, they've done projects with the
They
town.
have, okay.
With Rosie took them around when my daughter was in fourth grade.
Right. But I
Hey,
mean,
you were interviewed.
I was interviewed by your
By-
son. Yes,
Yeah.
was that
See,
the
that's
one?
what I-
Yes,
that's what I'm
that was the
talking about.
bicentennial.
That's
Yes,
what it talks about.
yeah.
But see, I'm thinking if we could get the younger people invested in it, do that interview type of thing. I mean, yes, I know they get a chance to hear it through people taking them around, but I'm saying, but then hands-on. I've worked with children long enough to know when they have put some energy into it, they own it, and then therefore it stays with them. So that just saying this is the kinds of brainstorming that people are going to have to do to look out for the future.
And I feel almost the same way as you did, Doggy. I mean, I looked at the dollars, I'm like, you know what, the building, by the time they renovate it, what are you really gonna salvage? But I think the historical significance is important. And when you look at the dollars perspective, to build new versus to renovate, you're not gonna have a new building now. But it's not much of a difference, a big delta there.
Yeah.
And I forgot who commented last night, but there's only about 7 other historic buildings in this town, so it's, so it's kind of like, do
Probably.
you wanna tear down and build new, or try and save what you have?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of town people that have a lot of love for that building. and-
Look what we did with the library.
Yeah, but
I
the.
mean, there was a disaster waiting to
Mhm.
fall apart, and it didn't
Right.
cost the town anything
Right.
to speak of.
But what's gonna happen, if you don't do anything, the building's gonna fall
Oh, yeah.
down, so,
Mhm.
there's nothing like urgent right now that has to be done. They did talk about the upper floor, structurally, it really can't support a lot of people up there, so that's what the engineers were concerned about, and the roof is probably gonna, they're surprised it's not leaking yet. So, there is some time to think about it and see what direction they're gonna go into. So I just really wanted to put that on the agenda. We'll keep that in the back of our minds moving forward. All right, let's move on to the provider agency request packages. Kayla, thank you for putting everything together for us.
Always.
And we could start, we'll go down the list. And it's all alphabetical, so American Red Cross is always the first one on the list.
Did they actually do it this year?
Yes, it was done.
What is this? I haven't seen one of these in years.
Well, push gets to shove.
Mhm. So, any discussion regarding the American Red Cross?
Did they cross their Ts and dot their Is on the
Yes,
packet?
they did.
Or they put T's and I's in it.
She did.
And did they get the petition too?
Yes, they did. 27. I'm sorry.
Okay, so the request, the request is for $1,000. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the request of $1,000 for the American Red Cross.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Maybe. I didn't read this yet, but do they list things they've done for Lincolnville or Hope or, the area?
I could do all that if you need it. But I would like to say this before we
Yeah.
start. Red Cross has reinvented themselves for northern New England. So we are now part of New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. And we are redoing what we do. In other words, we have more people involved utilizing the money that's being given. So like I normally go on disasters, well, that's pretty expensive. But I can now ship over and go to blood drives and help out at blood drives. So it's utilizing us more and in the most economic way. And I think that's really important that we know that now. So, does that kind of help you a little bit?
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering what we or the area gets for its money, just because I'm not familiar with
Mhm.
what the Red Cross does. I see in disasters read.
Okay, Reed.
Yeah.
Well, John,
Yes.
I don't have any information about what they've done for Lincolnville. I contend that it's less important what they've done for Lincolnville. It's what they do for anybody in the state of Maine if their house burns down, if there's a disaster anywhere. And if we don't support them, they won't be there to do that.
Okay. So like, I'm sorry, I'm so ignorant about them. What if my house burned down? What would
They
do?
will be there.
Yeah. What do they do? Exactly.
What generally you get, it
Yeah.
used to be like a week of housing, no longer. It's usually 3 nights housing in a hotel or motel or whatever. You get X amount of dollars per person for clothing. All your medications will be completely refilled at no cost to you. Hearing aids that are destroyed, they're replaced at no cost to you. Any kind of apparatus that you need will be replaced at no cost to you. So they take care of your medical needs, your physical needs by housing and clothing, that type of thing. So an average person, my best guess is an average house, is probably easily over $1,000 donated towards that family. I don't know the exact figure, but easily that amount.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Well, I mean, I'm not meaning to stir the pot a little bit, but I personally feel like that amount of money could be used in a much more efficient and effective way on the local level. I just know that the Red Cross has a huge amount of overhead, and that kind of money gets dispersed through a lot of hands. I volunteer in the area, and there are a lot of very needy charities. I know that they have to apply, but I just am hesitant to be giving precious dollars like that out to such a, not monstrous in a bad way, but monstrous in a size way kind of corporation. And like I said, I just think that $1,000 could be used in a much
The
better
money
way.
that
And
comes,
not meant to malign anything. It's not
No.
meant maliciously. I just think, yeah, that's just how I feel. about
Do
it.
you mean like others on this list here? They might.
Well, I mean, I just think that anything that's more of a in the field grassroots type of thing, where you know that dollar is, you're getting much more of a bang for it, so it's not getting filtered down through corporate expenses. And that's true for any organization. For 501(c)(3)s, I think everybody's got to be careful and see where is the money going, and out of that $1,000, what realistically is going to be done. And yeah, personally, I mean, I would rather give the money to a battered women's shelter than to the Red Cross. And that's not, again, I'm not meaning to stir anything. It's just a personal preference.
That's why we're here.
I need to address that. May I, please?
Sure.
Okay, the $1,000 that comes in from Lincolnville, most of it will be spent in Waldo County. It doesn't go any further than going to an account. It's either in Bangor, or either in Portland, and it's used for Maine. It's not going national, and I agree with what you're saying with that, because that was always my big problem, that it was going national, and now that's why the revamping is about. And I don't know if they
But
put
the
that in there.
revamping's after some scandalous things came to light
In
about
Maine?
Not in Maine.
about the whole
No,
organization.
no, we're not
No, no,
talking
no,
about the
no,
whole
no,
national
no.
organization, we're talking about Maine.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just, yeah, but it's a branch of,
It's Maine.
okay.
yeah. It is called that.
And I
They-
think, yeah.
They use American Red Cross in the title, but actually it is considered, now that's why I said there's 3 states involved, and I can't remember what they call it now. But before it used to be just
The
the
main region. So.
main region, yeah. But it is the 3 states, so it's the whatever, northern region, I think.
Reed, did you have anything else? I saw your hand.
Well, I just was gonna ask Jordan, so, how would you assume that a family that loses their house, if the Red Cross isn't there?
They'll be there
No,
without
no, no,
our
wait a
$1,000.
second, if you don't support them, they disappear. You have to support an organization that you want to be there. If you're not willing to support them, how can you expect them to be there?
I agree with that, but I also see that corporation has a huge.
It's not a corporation.
It's not.
It is not a corporation.
That entity has cultivated a huge infrastructure
Which
for collecting
which
donations.
entity are you talking about? The national entity or this?
Either or. Compared to, say, the Belfast Soup Kitchen or to local AOI
It's not a
pantries,
soup kitchen.
I am comparing apples to apples here, and where local money going to community needs, how it's the most effectively done, and I am just juxtaposing the two.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well, yes, something that might help. You're both advocating strongly for the Red Cross. That's good. I don't know, a story. Somebody from Waldo County that their house burned down or something terrible happened, and they're so appreciative. You know, a personal story. And then like Dottie, when you said, most of the money stays in Waldo County, so like how much? Because we're gonna make a decision, and if it's just most, and we don't know, like it's 90%, or, you know, maybe something more
Well,
quantitative.
let's look at the blood drives. I mean, people come in and they donate their blood. I'm volunteering for that, so I assign people in, so I don't get paid for that. But then you look at the equipment and look at how many times the blood has to go through whatever, and that has to be paid for. That isn't done by the goodness of the companies that have do that kind of thing. So that's just one example. We had, I don't know if anybody remembered, when we had the ice storm and that we, Christmas Eve, opened up a shelter in the middle school in Belfast. And you want to talk about a nightmare, that was the most nightmare I've ever seen in my life. Because there was 3 of us there, because nobody else could get here. We had no vouchers, so we finally figured out a way of getting vouchers to go to Hannaford and buy food for everybody. And I think we had over 100 people there, and it was Christmas Eve, so somebody decided that they were entitled to have a cake or some kind of things that were luxuries. But I mean, that whole event cost a lot of money, probably the $1,000 when you get, because the cots had to be bought, the pillows and the blankets you have that you sleep with, you take those home, they can't be reused. So there's a lot of hidden expenses just on a sheltering kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, there's the kind of example I was asking for.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
a real
yeah.
thing that
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other discussion? All right, call for a vote. All those in favor? All those against?
Can I abstain?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes, thank you. Okay. Belfast Area Child Care Services. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for that.
Move 500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? No? Okay, motion passes. Okay, Camden Area District Nursing, Jordan, just to give you a little background, because you're new to the committee.
Thank you.
You see there's only $1 there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really need money now, but they want to stay in the
Reserves.
queue in case they do decide to sell the extra $1 every year.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take a motion
I
on
make
this.
a motion that we give Camden Area District Nursing $1.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, no submission by the Habitat for Humanity Waldo County this year, so we don't really, unless someone has I don't know if we can even add it if there's no submission. I mean, the budget committee could discuss it. I think we did that for Life Flight 2 years ago.
I think you increased an amount they had already requested.
Mhm.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any-
We don't receive a submission, we usually don't.
Okay, all right,
Historically.
we'll move on then.
We could.
Close them up. Okay. Next, number 5, New Hope for Women received a petition request for $1,240, which is a little bit less than last year. Last year was $1,302. I'll entertain a motion.
Move the amount of $1,240.
Second.
Okay, second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would
Kayla,
like
do you
to-
know why they
Can I ask
requested
a
the last?
question?
Why
It's
we-
a
That's a shelter.
Yeah.
procedure question. How would I, if I wanted to increase that that amount, how would I be able to do that?
Move to amend.
Move to
You-
amend?
yeah.
Okay.
I had the same discussion
Um,
7 years ago.
I'd like to move to amend that
Yeah, I hear ya.
New Hope for Women petition should receive $1,500.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Dottie, maybe you might want to.
Yes, I do want to. Thank you. I have been involved more recently with New Hope for Women. I just attended a 2-day training. It is required, I have to say this, it's required for me to keep my license. But what I learned from going to that training and listening to how people are treated, what they need for their needs are, it amazed me how many people in Waldo County participate and take part in and are given housing, clothing, medical treatments, et cetera, and I was just positively amazed at how many people, and these are abused, severely abused people with families. So I feel that $1,500 is not a really large sum of money, and that's why I'd like to have it at least 1,500.
Can I make maybe an attached motion
To
or
amend the
suggestion
amended motion.
that perhaps we take what you would like to add on from the Red Cross's portion?
Already
No, we can't
approved.
do that now.
You can't do that.
Ah.
We'd have to work on this motion and
Okay.
then you could amend
Yeah.
it. So-
Thank you for
Yeah.
entertaining me.
No, I'm glad you said that. That's
I
a good
guess
point.
my question, and I haven't read this through, obviously, just got it tonight.
But we are, just Jordan, we already approved the thousand.
Oh,
for
yeah,
Red Cross.
okay, I understand. Thank you.
Very bureaucratic around here. So where does the amount of 1240 come from? Do we know? I mean, has anyone broken that down? Why it's less than last year, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, looking at their application, if you look at this one here, because they gave us multiple different pages. When you look at page 3, it actually looks like the 1,302 might have been what they were gonna request. Cause that was in there, or maybe that was in there from last year, cause they never put what they received in that
Oh,
year. A lot of times, I know, like, Waldo Community Action Partners requests amount based off a percentage of what they've helped people in our community.
But I know New Hope doesn't do that for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
They can't.
yeah, so I don't know, I don't know why it's,
No, and I will just, to add on what Dottie says, having working in the same field, and I'm sure, Jason, you have your own experiences, it really is a pretty remarkable organization, and it's unfortunately far more necessary than anyone of us want to think. And the services provided are incredibly broad. I mean, just having somebody that's going to be there in the courtroom and that works closely, works in our child welfare agency, works with our, our homeless coalition, works in various areas. They're there. And I know discussion in past years about New Hope has sort of been, well, who's being served in Lincolnville? Well, we don't know because these are very confidential information, very private family matters. But I can tell you through 20 years experience in social service in this community, they're unfortunately a very necessary and in an overall really, really good organization who also seems to spend their money very wisely. It's a lot of real, it's boots on the ground. It's not a lot of overhead. It's people that are out there actually doing the work. So that's been my experience with them.
on page 2, they do talk a bit about what Lincolnville residents have received.
Oh, do they?
Number 6.
Sorry, my bad.
Not to the
Any other
The
discussion?
only other thing I'd say about that is New Hope for Women's Waldo County office is inside the sheriff's office. So I do get to see a steady stream of people coming in for various services, but the victims of domestic violence are not the only ones served by New Hope. One big portion of what they do that often flies under the radar is the education piece. They actually have individuals that specifically are doing education in the school systems. They're going and they're talking to young kids about dating violence and all kinds of things to educate the next generation about proper relationships and what those look like and what healthy relationships look like. So don't underestimate the value of that work long term. And I know they're doing that in all of the elementary schools throughout the county. So it's another service that they do offer.
Okay, any other discussion? So
So-
we have an amended motion on the floor, John.
Yes, so you might have said, how much more did you want to add? To the request?
To round it up to 1,500.
To round it up to 1,500, okay.
So you do the math, John. You're the Brady app.
It'll be
That's easy.
$260.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the amended motion? Any opposed? Okay, so $1,500 for New Hope for Women. And Jordan, just as another, you're new to the system, we make recommendations and the selectmen make their recommendations and then the town gets to vote on it. Fine, okay. Wasn't sure if you were aware of how that
Well, I
process
appreciate
works.
as much information as
Okay.
possible, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jordan, this is the one,
Hot button.
Possibly.
Sometimes.
This is the one area that the budget committee makes the decision on.
Yeah.
The select board will agree or disagree with us, but we're the entity that makes the decision, whereas the rest of the municipal budget is made by the select board.
It has been a very hot button some years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
moving on. We're making good time here. Number 6, Spectrum Generation, petition for $1,734. Last year, they received $1,617. I'll entertain a motion. Read.
I move that the budget committee recommends $1,734.
Any second? Okay, good. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes, $1,734.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who made the motion, was it? Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Next item, Light Flight Foundation, their petition $750. Same petition as the request last year, but the budget committee considered $1,000 to increase their request. So I'll entertain a motion on the floor.
Here,
Read.
I move that the budget committee recommends $1,000
Do we have a second?
for
Okay.
Life Flight.
Any discussion?
I
Doug?
can speak personally how Lifeline can save somebody's life, and it really did.
Yeah,
So,
and
Yeah.
we have a perfect example of our town administrator. too.
yeah, well, we've got, yeah,
Well, almost my son. He didn't make me life fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
yeah.
He was on another
So-
meeting.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next item, Waldo Community Action Partners, request of $2,340. Last year, they were granted $2,513. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the amount of $2,340 for Waldo County Community Action.
Any, okay, any discussion?
Great organization.
Any
Second.
other discussion? Okay. Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, motion passes. 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. The Waldo County YMCA, there was no submission, so we'll bypass that. Next one on the list is Hospice Volunteer of the Waldo County. They petitioned $400 this year. Or requested, they didn't have a request the last 3 or 4 years. Motion?
I move that we recommend $400 for hospice.
Second, any discussion? Read.
Well, I lost a really close friend this year, and he was given somewhere between 2 hours and 48 hours to live. And hospice made arrangements to pick him up in Portland and transport him down to hospice. And he lasted 48 hours, and it was one of the most remarkable things I've ever experienced. The staff at the Sussman House were just incredible, but they were always in the background. They never intruded into the family and friends, but they made everybody comfortable. They made my friend comfortable, and it was an incredible experience.
I'll agree with that. Both my parents were on hospice too before they passed away. And I think the biggest thing I see with hospice, people call them in too late. The hospice offers so many support mechanisms for the patients who are, at the end of their life, and I think people wait too long to really take advantage of what they have to offer. But I think it's a wonderful organization moving forward.
I'm going to offer another thought. I'm not, hugely familiar with hospice volunteers, but Sussman House I hear is an amazing place. I have not had to be there, thankfully. But my dad died at home. and hospice is certainly part of that. And I know my understanding of hospice volunteers, they will go into the home to allow people to pass. And I know the most amazing thing for our family was to be able to be there with my dad. And I mean, I certainly love the fact that someplace like Sussman to be there as well. But in this case, and I think a lot of these cases where people can pass at home, where they have somebody who will be there with them, because I know that people who volunteer for hospice, that's frequently what they do. They go into people's home to just be there. And sometimes it's somebody who doesn't have, this massive family and kids running around them as they die, like my dad did. I think that's, for a lot of people around here, that's the greatest thing, is to be able to pass in their own home.
Especially the elderly who maybe a lot of family and friends have passed away.
And I know from talking to volunteers, that's what they do. They sit there and hold their hand.
Well, and even before then, they do spend a lot of time doing normal things. I mean, it's not just at the immediate end of life.
Absolutely.
It's very comprehensive. And they are just, I know some people do it. There's normal people who take some courses and give a lot of their time. And it's pretty important.
Any other discussion? Okay. Well, motion on the table to give hospice $400. All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Any? No, unanimous. All right. Okay. Is there any new business?
You guys don't have to come next Wednesday now, because you voted on it and you're not meeting with anyone.
Sweet.
So we don't need next Wednesday's meeting.
What's the date of that one?
What was the date of that? I'm sorry, just the Wednesday.
If somebody has a,
Wednesday the
22nd.
22nd. Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't bring mine.
Ed, I think I gave you a schedule.
Yeah, I guess one. Yep.
Okay, so then the next time we're going to meet will be
Mine.
Tuesday, February 11th at 6 p.m.
And that's for the budget presentation,
And
right?
that, yes, and I'll be getting that schedule out.
I'm sorry. What was the time on that again? On February 11th?
6 p.m.
6 p.m.?
Yep.
All right, thank you very much.
February 11th. At what time?
6 p.m.
So what was the deal with 6:30 today?
Well, when you weren't here.
I wasn't here either.
So, 6 was kind of close for some people to make it here. They had other obligations, so 6:30.
Are we gonna be consistent at 6?
It varies, like for the
Generally-
school workshop, it'll be at 6 o'clock. Did you get the schedule on? Most, like the next two ones will be at 6 o'clock.
Are they accurate on?
Yeah, the Wednesdays at 6:30.
But this one is gonna be 6 o'clock. Whatever Kayla did.
If it's a Wednesday, it's 6:30. If it's a Tuesday, it's 6.
So, Reed, if you still wanna come at 6 on Wednesdays, I'll pick you up, we'll go to the store, get a cup of tea, talk to the locals. And
Okay.
anybody else,
I might join you.
I've got a big car, we can all fit.
Oh, now you do, right? But in summer,
Come spring, we'll have to crowd into my Fiat.
I'm in favor of consistency.
It's
That's
been
the
like
only
that
way I
forever,
know.
Reed,
That's it.
Well, we act
The thing about consistency, it is until it isn't.
all right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, good, thank you all. Stay warm and dry, hopefully